I have two fantastic guys with me here again today. So we have MacKenzie Wilson and we have Chris Noble, and they are both a part of the Alberta Landlord Community. And today we've got a great discussion topic that I think everyone's going to love. It's just about the inflation, everything that is happening. What can landlords do? How inflation is affecting the Canadian real estate investors, and what can we do as investors to make changes in order to save?
We love to use leases, term leases. And if a lease is up, it's up. The 1 year increase doesn't apply when you're using a lease. If you're on a month to month, then it's, if you're on a month to month, then you have to wait a year.
We also have the power in Alberta to manage our utilities on a separate agreement if we so choose. Everything is always negotiable, 100% negotiable. And it's just so important to have multiple conversations with different providers of that product or service that you're looking at.
Everyone, and thank you again for tuning in to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. My name is Kayla Andrade, and I am one of the co-hosts here on the Canadian Real Estate Channel, bringing you some fantastic speakers, people who have so much experience in the real estate industry all over Canada. So I have two fantastic guys with me here again today. You'll probably see him on our past videos. So we have MacKenzie Wilson and we have Chris Noble, and they are both a part of the Alberta Landlord Community. So they run a beautiful connected group of landlords who are on Facebook, and they provide so much content to our landlords who are in that community on investments and how to grow, and also how to protect their investments by the day-to-day management. So we're going to bring you guys, these guys to you now through the Canadian Real Estate Channel. And today we've got a great discussion topic that I think everyone's going to love. It's just about the inflation, everything that is happening. What can landlords do? How inflation is affecting the Canadian real estate investors, and what can we do as investors to make changes in order to save. So thank you guys so much for coming on and being able to talk about this with us, because I know times are getting tough and they're scary, and we want to know what can we do to limit the risk of what's to come. Because as you guys see, gas prices have increased, the utilities are obviously increasing at the same time. So what do we got to talk about? It's so much. I know I got a couple of my points, but I want to pick your brain at the same time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the great introduction, Kayla. Chris and I are super excited to be here. And as you said, we're from Alberta. I'm down south in Calgary, and Chris is a little bit north above me in central Alberta, small town. So we can kind of provide that layered opinions about what's going on here in the province. But you kind of got two topics, inflation and cost savings. I think we should take that inflation for our next video, because I think that'd be a topic all on its own. But today, let's kind of angle in on cost saving techniques. So Chris, I'll throw it to you. I know we're talking in the virtual studio about some techniques, and you had a really simple but powerful approach you took with one of your tenants to adjust some costs, rising costs that you were having.
Yeah. Well, in my experience in the past, and it's just a visit, because of some other issues show up, and I learn things as I go, and you're being attentive to what you're dealing with your tenants. And, we're dealing with weather that's minus 30 degrees, and the tenant comes to the door in shorts and a t-shirt. Long awkward pause. And how do I not say something? Well, I bite my tongue and I not say something. And from there I learned, and now that tenant has since gone. But just renewing a lease here last month, a tenant comes up to my house, and we sit down, and I purposely asked her to come to my house and sit down at the table. And I had my bills out, and I showed her, I said, I have to put your rent up. She goes, oh, how come? I said, because when you're paying all of the utility, or sorry, when I'm paying, you're paying rent, an all-inclusive rent. I'm covering the utilities. Flat rate. Yep. So what's happening is you're not accountable because you're not paying those bills. You pay one bill, it's an all-in, and you have no idea what's going on the end. Yeah. And so you leave the light on, you run the water full tilt when you're brushing your teeth, you do, you take long showers when they're not necessary. Anyhow, so
you said this in a much softer tone, right, Chris?
Yeah. Well,
or is that you just like This is what I think you're doing.
Yeah.
You're inviting family over to wash all their bedding. Like, we have to stop this.
Well, that happens. You know, even an apartment building I help manage, we included, I'm going to get back on track here, but because you brought that up, Kayla, is have an apartment building where we included laundry as a benefit and a bonus. So what do? The whole family comes over and laundry machines are going steady. So again, accountability and, you know, abusive, people don't realize that they're the user, but who's paying for it? So I sat her down and I put out in front of her and I said, here's your water bill that I got this month, $160. Normally with my tenants, it ranges from 80 to 110. She's 160. So that's a lot of cubic meters of water that's being used. And then she said, and you know, what's interesting, have a very, you know, I'm a little more different approach here on how I'm presenting it with you guys, but with her, it's quite a bit softer, like you asked, MacKenzie. And I am a very matter-of-fact person, but I do practice my delivery, and I do make pay attention when you bring this stuff up, Mac.
I love it.
And so I was sitting down talking to her, and I slid the bill across to her, and I said, "Here you go." And she goes, "Oh wow." I go and I explained to her what the other users have at my other rentals, and then of course it comes out when you're in the conversation is, well, my daughter, I said, does your daughter, I knowing I've had young girls and boys and stuff, and she says, well, my daughter does do her own laundry. And I go, okay, so right away, well, in go the pair of pants and a shirt because she needs to use it tomorrow. And instead of turning the dial on the washing machine to small load, it's at extra large load. So you know what's going on because they're not attentive to that. Doesn't mean anything to the kids, right? So anyway, I talked about those things. I said, how about you come up with a system with your child that, hey, mom, do you got anything I need to throw in? Hey, sister, hey, brother, I'm going to do a load, or you go look. I said to her, just so you're aware, these costs are going to be downloaded to you. And she, you know, in understanding a business perspective of it, she said, well, what does that mean? It means I'm going to be increasing your rent again if we can't change your behavior.
Now, this brings into investing in Alberta. So now you get the concept that if the utilities are increasing, you can, after that 1 year, right? After the 1 year term, you can indeed raise the rent on that in particular tenant. You don't, it's not like you can do it every single month. So you have to kind of look at the entire bills that were being accumulated within that year and then figure out what would be a fair increase for that in particular tenant.
Well, keep in mind, we love to use leases, term leases. And if a lease is up, it's up. The 1 year increase doesn't apply when you're using a lease. If you're on a month to month, then it's, you know, if you're on a month to month, then you have to wait a year. But if you're on a lease, and correct me if I'm wrong, MacKenzie, the lease is ending and they're starting a new lease. Well, here's your new lease and this is what it'll be. And, you know, you give them notice, you know, 45, you don't have to give them any notice, but you should because it's good business practice. Here's 45 days notice. Here's your new lease and this is why. And you may make it a 6-month lease to protect.
Are you guys into the thermostat? So with the heat situation that you can control it from a different location, being able to control the heat as well, or being able to monitor when it's on, or making sure that as landlords you're putting in these energy saving light bulbs inside of these properties, especially when they're all inclusive, if you can't make the tenants solely responsible on a monthly basis.
Well, Alberta, when the NDP was in, they put out a big promotion where they came and went through your house and provided all these LEDs and different things. So I had all the places done for free, and the LED light bulbs put in because they were expensive to buy back then. But if the province is putting them in, boom, yeah. So I signed up all my places, and I got all this free stuff put in: shower heads, light bulbs, and even thermostats. However, I find it a little bit intrusive, and I'm just doing the balance to go and control someone's heat in their house as a landlord, and you're punching on, you're looking at your phone all night. Hey, what are they now? I have a problem with that, just a moral problem. You know, I guess if the heat's at 25 at night at midnight and you don't see lights on there in bed, and then you go and turn it down, that's a little too much, I think. And
welcome to Ontario.
A little too invasive. So then having these chats and showing them the bills. And I also offer the option, you could put the bills in your name and I'll lower the rent. Oh, no, that's okay. Well,
There you
Now
go. Okay,
you're
so we
like
got
this with them.
Yeah.
So we got the savings on the utilities down pat. So is anywhere you can save on utilities, really being educational to your tenants, letting them know that obviously here's the increase. We're not here trying to nickel and dime you. This is what you need to do so that you can pass that off to them after that 1-year lease, which is fantastic about renting in Alberta. Now, if we get ourselves into, you know, saving on utilities, because that's a huge part, but what about our mortgage? I know a lot of people are having our mortgage renewal. Is there something that landlords should be doing or saying to the banks in order to get that lower interest rate down?
Awesome. I'm going to jump in. I'm so excited to talk, and I haven't said anything too much other than saying hi. I'm going to just segue quickly back to that point you put there, Kayla, with what Chris was talking about his chat. I think two things that Chris did really well there was, one, he sat down. He did the kitchen table talk. He sat down, talked to them face to face, which is always the best communication when you can do it if possible. And it wasn't his words saying, I know the utilities are really high. He's like, here's the NMAX, EPCOR, whatever your utility provider is, right from the horse's mouth. He didn't third party the information. And it's pretty tough to say no to that. And if the tenants are truly being fair, they're going to understand. So I think that was a really powerful part of the conversation. Flipping back to raising the rents and utilities, we have a few different ways to do that. As Chris talked about, there's month to month and year. Our rule that's governed by the RTA, the Residential Tenancies Act in Alberta, is you can't raise rent more than once every 365 days. And that holds true for both periodic month-to-month leases, as well as a fixed 1 year or 6 month term lease too. So that's something to keep and consider. We also have the power in Alberta to manage our utilities on a separate agreement if we so choose. So there's a few different ways to split and attack that approach. Okay, now segueing back to the other part of the conversation, asking about mortgages. And right now, with dealing with all these rising costs, you may look at a bill and it's got a nice company label on it, and it looks like it's like that is the price. Everything is always negotiable, 100% negotiable. And it's just so important to have multiple conversations with different providers of that product or service that you're looking at. So we just had a chat actually this last week on our Shop Talk show, and we had some awesome investors on, and they're telling us that any of our big banks, so, and that was Corey and Tiffany Young that came over on our show. I know that you appeared there as well, Kayla, on their show, but any of the big 5 banks, so the TDs, the BMOs, RBCs, and so on, you have the ability to go in and skip a payment and pause that. So yes, you still do pay interest on that 1 month, but if you're tight for cash flow, put in an extra $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever that mortgage payment is into your pocket to have to manage the cash flow of that property is a huge play. And on the next thing, looking at interest rates, right? We just had an interest rate up 25 basis points here in the last week that got raised. But if you, depending on where you are from your last term lease and your renewal, there might be an opportunity to break that lease, pay a small fee, and still save more than what you're currently renewing at. But you got to have the conversations and look at different options. And when you've got the options, then there's the advantage to find cost savings.
Perfect. So now we got savings some there too. Maybe if you have any friends in the banking institution, give you a heads up which way you should be going to get some money. Now, what about insurance? You know, it's another part. I think that, you know, it was a friend of mine who started calling around to insurance companies because his insurance went up like $3,000 for his big buildings, you know, and he was able to get some savings by calling around to different insurance companies as well. So you have any experience getting some discounts? Like, what can we do to kind of save on our insurance? I've been hearing, obviously, tenants having tenant insurance can also help lower your insurance, as well as, you know, having cameras on your property can help you lower your insurance rate as well.
Really? I did not know that last part. That's interesting.
I guess it all depends who you talk to for insurance.
Yeah. Chris, what's your take on the insurance?
You know, I guess it comes down to shopping around. I'm very fortunate. My insurance, well, I handle it a little differently. It's an extension of my personal residence. I have 6 doors, and they're able to extend from my personal residence over. And so if I do have a breakdown or a fire or something, everything's going to go up. However, that cost will be put back over to my rentals to be able to write it off if my personal insurance has to go up. But shopping around is the best thing to do, getting discounts. What can you do to ask your insurance broker, what do I need to do to qualify for a discount? And they said, well, Do you have you got to have your smoke detectors, but sometimes fire suppression systems give you discounts. Having alarm systems in your house give you discounts. Having cameras in your system gives you discounts. Ask them. There's a list of what you can get for discounts.
What about having CAA? No, I'm just joking. Just trying to be funny. Okay. I won't quit my day job.
Yeah,
we all love discounts.
Yeah, I'll say what Chris said. I mean, again, from our Alberta perspective, because of course the show is across Canada, our insurance industry is privatized in Alberta. So it is definitely one policy to the next is not always apples to apples comparison. In fact, probably most times it's not. So the different nuances in that policy, how you build it up to get the coverage that you want, all have a different cost or a line item cost to it. So you can really get pretty precise in narrowing through what is worth it to you. Changing your deductible to a higher deductible will bring down that annual premium as well. There is a lot of ways. So it just takes some time to read through that policy, have those conversations on the phone. Like what Chris said, I think is a powerful tip is ask what their available discounts are if you do certain things. And that will be 100% different from every provider. So you got to be speaking to a number of providers or insurance brokers as well.
Just quickly, something to look at. You want to change your deductible, say from $1,500 deductible. Oh, if I go to $5,000 deductible, then my rate goes down. But you think about it, if something happens and you have an $8,000 or $9,000 claim, well, $5,000 of it's coming out of your pocket. So you better have a contingency plan in place to have $5,000 set aside.
Yeah, good tip.
Because if your rent, okay, so let's do the quick math on that. Let's say, for argument's sake, your premium only goes up, $100 for having $1,500 to $1,000. From $1,500 deductible to $5,000, so $100 or $150. How long is it going to take you to build that, save that $150 a year, a month, whatever it is? You have to do that math on that, and is it worth it?
Yeah, I know it would, especially for insurance. It's also, especially on the flood zones that are seeming to be very on the radar for a lot of our insurance companies. So obviously that rate goes up. So it doesn't hurt. Some people were so used to just keeping the norm, but definitely it doesn't hurt just to ask around and getting that insurance price. Now you talk about things going wrong. Now, what's the other concept of maintenance? Keeping up on maintenance. Some people like to put it away, but, because you're putting it aside too many times, now you could be resulting into having a bigger issue to deal with. That's going to cost you more money. So really trying to get our landlords to stay up on top of their maintenance. And if so, what kind of savings can they look at by doing some of the work themselves? But if you don't know how to do electrical, guys, or plumbing, do not touch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to cost you a lot more. So we really want to make sure what kind of tips that we can get our landlords, trying to do some of the work themselves to kind of save on some maintenance, but making sure that they're tackling projects that we have trust with a little bit of a YouTube video they can watch and get a little bit of guidance versus diving into something that could be catastrophic and cause more damage. What kind of tips can we give our landlords when they're doing maintenance themselves?
So there's two ways to look at it. We're talking about cost savings, and you look at a rental property in the business. You either increase the rent to increase that margin, or you bring down your costs to again get that spread on your margin. So yeah, same thing when you're talking about all the different trades. Again, right now we are in this period of high inflation, so the trades will be seeing the same thing. I know that they had a lot of cost increase to ship product into the country. I mean, we're talking again electrical and plumbing; those things, fittings, are they've seen increased costs in their bottom line. So really, all these strategies come down. You can't just take one price at face value. And if you're not familiar with how perhaps a plumber should quote out or a painter should quote a job for you, you need to get multiple quotes because you're going to get similarities in those different quotes, and then you'll get to see, or it becomes very obvious looking at different options. Okay, these people are properly quoting the job. They measured in square feet that they paint or linear feet, or it's materials plus hours, and here's how they build it out. If you don't have that perception or that understanding of what those numbers should look like, it's going to be unfortunately, pretty easy that you're going to get taken for it and perhaps pay way too much for a product or service. So again, as Chris talked about before, and just this shopping around is so important, especially in these times of higher prices. And
Nice.
I'll flip over on the other side is, are you actually at market rent? Is there an opportunity to increase rent? Every year you should be increasing rent. I know, unfortunately, for the folks over in Ontario, you guys get told how to increase rent, which just blows my mind. That's not cool at all. But here in Alberta, we have the choice to pick what the rent should be. A rule of thumb is, and this comes again from talking to many investors and landlords, is if you raise the rent, call it 25, 35, maybe 45 or 50 bucks from the previous year up per month, there is a cost factor that tenant has to look at even to initiate doing a move if they don't like that rent. But if the amount of raised rent is so small, they're going to look on, and they're just going to probably actually take and eat that cost, because the headache and the logistics and the cost of moving outweighs that small raise in rent. And there's inflation every year. It never goes away. If you're not raising rents every year, you're going to create yourself a massive shortfall. One year you have to do a big catch-up period, and no one likes a $300 raise in rent, but a $35 raise in rent is a little bit easier to swallow.
You just took the words out of my mouth. It's about being that good landlord, taking your chances on knowing, what's the cost of turnover, what's the cost of this increase, and ruining a great relationship with a tenant that's taking care within your property as well. So sometimes you have to bite a little bit, but definitely trying to keep our tenants inside the units and also keeping them happy at the same time. Okay, Chris, you had something to say on that?
Absolutely. Now, unlike my little computer buddy up here, we have a complementary relationship, and I think if you look at our page, you have me holding the hands-on portion of it, and MacKenzie's there with the computer portion of it. So when MacKenzie says, Chris, when are you coming down to Calgary next? I said, oh, I'll be down next week. He says, can you fix my toilet? I said, yeah, I'm going to bring my laptop. He says, great. You fix my toilet, I'll fix your laptop. So that's my segue into where I'm going with this next. It's about sweat equity. You know what? The best way to learn is allow yourself to be able to make mistakes, but then take back and say, okay, how can I do that better? I've worked with a lot of contractors where I kind of go towards the more the home-based contractor who I know does good work, and being in a smaller community, you do learn them faster, but they're there in Calgary, they're there in Edmonton, and that's the guy you want to friend. You say, hey, and you want to build that relationship. When you need something done, he's going to come and fix it. So, hey, I want to side my house. Do you know how to do that? Absolutely. Can I work with you? Well, I got a hired man. Well, here's the deal. I need to learn this stuff too. So, over time, I sided one of my rentals this summer. I have gone in and replaced the entire bathroom. And because I've worked with a cabinet installer, I've learned how to install cabinets. So all these little things over time has put me in the position now where I can do this stuff. And when you think about, I go buy a cabinet for a vanity and sink and taps for $350. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's my cost. My labor to put it in is free, right? That's my investment in myself. If I was going to hire someone to do that, they're going to pay what? $85 an hour to install it? They're going to take 3-4 hours.
Investing into yourself can help you save money as well. It's just about, sometimes you have landlords who rather spend so much money after a problem than spending money to stop a problem from happening first of all. So it's all about that education that you're doing. You saved like a ton of money just by taking on that initial step of learning yourself. Now, before we head off sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say, last thing is go back to MacKenzie's painting example. Yeah. A square footage, linear footage that they charge. A can of paint is $50, not a good paint, and that'll paint a can of paint to freshen it up. That's all it is. Go buy the brush. When you buy a brush, here's the simplest things: buy a $15 or $20 brush. Don't buy a $10 brush. You're thinking, why? Well, reward yourself with good equipment. And that's what I do, and that's how I get it past my spouse. I say, hey, I'm going to do this job. Can I buy this tool? I want to buy this tool because I'm saving. Oh, yeah, sure. So I buy the good tool. Then I have it next time. So I've rewarded myself with good tools, good stuff. And then I can paint in the line and go to YouTube. If you don't know how to do it, go into YouTube. Find out how to cut a ceiling without having to tape everything. Yeah. Invest in yourself. You invest in your property. And all of a sudden, you've taken your $15 or $20 brush at $20. So in $100, in rollers and paints and everything, That's your investment. And the other guy's going to charge you $1,500 to do it. So what's your savings? Do the math on that, right? And what did you learn?
That's true. That's true. Now, I know we're almost at time here, but I really want to get this last one in about the tax deductions. And, you know, it's tax time coming up, so we always want to, you know, when we're doing our maintenance, we're saving those little receipts. And if you want to get that good little, that good paintbrush in order to help the job go a lot smoother, we want to hold on that receipt. What kind of tax deduction tips do you guys have, or what do you use within your rental units? I know that when speaking with Cherry Chan, the tax accountant that we love to talk about in our group, she's a wealth of knowledge, so we're going to have her on one day too. But I know you guys are not full tax accountants, but what can you give our viewers, any type of tips when it comes down to tax deductions?
Sure, I'll start with this, and then Chris, I know you're going to top up because the value adds all the way here. There's two takes on that. One, talk to the experts. Make sure you've got a great bookkeeper and accountant because they know the system. This is not stuff to be doing yourself, especially if it's not your area of expertise. If it is, then hands-on. But I know I'm not good at it, and I would cost myself money by trying to do it myself by missing valuable deductions. So I leave it to the professionals there. The segue on that in terms of tax credits or whatever else is you got to pay attention to the news. So for example, here in Calgary, they announced January 1st, a $3,000 credit if you repair and replace the shingles on your roof up to a class 4, which means it's more higher wind resistant and hail damage and all that good stuff. And you'll get a $3,000 tax credit back. I hopped on that. I actually just had my roof replaced in the middle of winter in Calgary. Before and after, within a week, it was like -30. The day they did it, it was about -5. And the product that they installed was actually installable up to -15. I didn't think I could get my roof installed in the middle of winter. The crews weren't busy. They got it done super fast. And I just got in to qualify for this program. The roofer is telling me he thinks anyone who applies for the program after the 3rd week of February there's probably not going to be more funds left in that government program. So check the news. You might have savings in your area that's either municipal, provincial, federal. We probably all know about that, but there might be opportunities that aren't as well known.
For me, I just rely on my accountant or my bookkeeper, Diana Irving. She's a wonderful lady. She's also part of our page in our group. She's super knowledgeable what she does, and I just keep everything, fire it in, and I either get the X or I get the check mark. Depends. She says, you can't do this, Chris. Okay. So she looks after me. I just, when in doubt, submit it and send a note. Can I do this? And she'll either say, no, or say, oh yeah, no problem. So,
sometimes some spending a little bit more can help you do some savings. Gotta love when I get that little memo. We gotta spend some money. No problem. I'm here. Thank you so much, guys. I know we're gonna have you on again because we have many other topics that I do have in this crazy head of mine of what I want to get for Alberta. I know we have a lot of our investors in Ontario really trying to jump out of Ontario, get into other provinces, which is totally cool. Like, I see why when you guys are talking about just raise the rent. No problem. Raise it to whatever you want. It's fantastic. So Alberta, you got my heart for investing, I tell you. So I want to thank you both from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this Canadian Real Estate channel and bringing your expertise to the viewers. And if you're liking what you're hearing, guys, hit subscribe. If you want to get into another province that we're not into yet, please put that into the comments as well. Until we do this again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we're looking forward to doing our next topic with you. Thanks so much, and subscribe to the Canadian Real Estate channel.